We have three candidates for delegate seat for 35B, as I explained earlier. If you look online now, you'll see that Delegate Hornberger is in District 35A. That's all going to change when the new House General Assembly is sworn in at the end of this year, early next year. And with that, 35B is the only district that is inclusive to Cecil County only in the General Assembly. So they represent only Cecil County constituents. We'll have 60-second introductions from each. Again, we'll go in alphabetical order. Delegate Hornberger.
Thank you, Carl. My name is Delegate Kevin Hornberger, and I'm here tonight asking for your vote in re-election for District 35B. Over the last 8 years, I've had a proven record of delivering real results for Cecil County. As the only candidate and the only person representing Cecil County in the entire General Assembly, I've been able to deliver on the promises that I made 8 years ago when I sat in the same seat. I've cut taxes, I've protected our Second Amendment rights, and I've also lowered the cost of living for our seniors and families in Cecil County. I'm asking for your vote again based on that track record, and tonight I want to showcase to you some of the accomplishments that I've made over the last 8 years, and I want to thank the Chamber for putting on this forum and inviting all of the candidates to showcase why they believe they're the best ones for this position. Thank you, and I appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Hornberger. Candidate, Mr. Travis Marion.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this forum. Thank you to the Cecil County Chamber of Commerce and the moderators for being here tonight. In the last 10 years, I've focused on my small town and its revitalization as mayor of the town of Rising Sun. I have a degree from Wilmington University in Government and Public Policy. I also hold a fellowship from the University of Maryland for Excellence in Local Government and currently serve on the Maryland Municipal League's Board of Directors. A once barren Main Street is now bustling with activity in Rising Sun because we instituted business-friendly policies. We also instituted a series of tax cuts, resulting in the second lowest per-person tax rate in Cecil County. Something everyone can agree upon is how hard times are right now. Everything is more expensive. Groceries, gas, just about everything. As your next state delegate, I will advocate for lower taxes and less government control of your lives. It's time for change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marion. Last candidate, Mr. Adam Streight.
Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Streight. I'm a Republican and longtime resident of Cecil County. My family's right there in the third row. For the last 23 years, I've served as Cecil County Sheriff's Deputy. Currently, I'm a sergeant, and I do drug investigations. I'm a longtime member of the Fraternal Order of the Police, and I've proudly been endorsed by that organization, both locally here and statewide. Government's first priority is public safety. Government needs to do better. I'm running on a public safety platform, and it touches everything, from the quality of life, your property values, attracting businesses and good paying jobs, schools, quality education, and your basic freedom to live and raise your family as you see fit. My law enforcement background has enabled me to see the results of the economic changes every day, and I would use that experience as delegate because common sense approach in Annapolis is what we need. I ask you to vote.
Delegate Hornberger. Gas in Maryland is now averaging $5 a gallon. Currently, the Maryland tax on a gallon of gas is 36 cents. July 1st, it is scheduled to increase 7 cents to a new total of 43 cents per gallon. Do you agree with this tax increase? What will you do to address this hardship on the monthly expenditures of your constituents? What are the benefits or potential consequences of your position?
Thank you for that question. I have some disturbing news for you all tonight. As of July 1st in the state of Maryland, Uncle Sam and Comptroller Peter Francho will make more money off of a gallon of gas than Exxon Valdez or your local Sunoco station down the street. The amount of taxes that we are incurring right now for our gasoline to fill up our cars, to go to work, to visit our families is exorbitant. It's gotten too high. During this last session, as the ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee, as the minority whip for that committee, I fought diligently to decouple us from inflation. I led the charge by offering an amendment and working with the governor's staff to extend the 30-day gas tax cut to 90 days. And unfortunately, we missed by one vote. The chair of the committee had to weigh in and vote to keep the status quo the way things were. So I am adamantly opposed, as is every candidate that you'll hear from tonight. We need to end these high gas taxes, and we need to make it so working families can get back in gas.
I do not agree with this tax increase. On average, it was just reported that the average family needs another $450 per month just to keep up with inflation. And we're raising the gas tax another 7 cents. That's insane. Cut it. Cut the gas tax, all right? And quite frankly, this should have been done a long time ago. A lot of us, this is the first that we've heard that the gas tax was tied to the CPI. This next General Assembly, everybody that wins, for the sake of our economy, for the sake of people that don't have enough money, stop tying the gas tax to inflation. That is a cowardly way to raise taxes without taking a hard vote.
Times are challenging right now, and everyone, when they go to fill up their gas tank, can see it at the pump. In my opinion, I think that legislators should have to take a vote every single time that they want to raise the gas tax. I also believe right now, when inflation is so high, they should decrease the tax. These funds do grow to benefit local infrastructure, including our roads, but I do not believe that it should be at a high cost to the citizens of our state. Thank you.
Mr. Marion, have adequate measures been taken to resolve the issues regarding the buildup of sediment behind the Conowingo Dam, now that an agreement between the state and Exelon has been reached?
I do not believe that it has adequately been addressed. I believe that we need to put more pressure on our neighboring states of Pennsylvania and New York. Most of the sediment flows down from those two states, and the state of Maryland needs to work harder with those two states to address the sediment and buildup at Conowingo Dam. Thank you.
Great question. To answer quite simply, no. Unfortunately, there was a deal struck between Exelon Power and Governor Hogan that basically gave them a sweetheart deal to be able to buy out a license for the next 50 years, to be able to continue operating the dam. That deal did not compensate the state of Maryland and the citizens of Cecil and Harford County especially enough. The reason, though, for that deal was that there was a threat by Exelon to move this to a federal level for approval, where we would have no say in the process. So while I understand that Governor Hogan struck the deal that he did with Secretary Grumbles, it doesn't go far enough. We also can't ask a private business that generates power for us to solve all of our problems. We have to come up with innovative ways to remove that sediment. That's why I've met with Congressman Andy Harris to talk about repealing of the Jones Act to allow American-made ships or foreign-made ships to be able to remove that sediment. This is a very nuanced problem, and it's difficult to answer in 60 seconds, but we need to do more to protect our environment and everything that's below the Conowingo Dam. Thank you.
It's evident. I just went across the Conowingo Dam today. There's not enough being done. And it's embarrassing, too, when you go across that dam and see our beautiful Susquehanna River, which is junk piled up along the dam, and knowing what's flowing down through the dam. I think, obviously, whatever is there, we need to set benchmarks and make sure those benchmarks are met. And there needs to be incentives and penalties if they are met, and penalties if they're not met. I think just having a standards and saying this is what we're going to do, if it's not enforced, it doesn't mean anything. And we're going to continue to be where we're at right now.
Mr. Streight, for the past several years, the General Assembly has been addressing the fiscal requirements of the Blue Ribbon Commission Kirwin report that require significant increases in funding for public education in Maryland. The purpose of the initiative is to ensure that Maryland's public school students receive 21st century high-quality learning experiences that will prepare them for success in their futures. Do you agree with implementing its recommendations? Do you have concerns, and if so, specifically what would you propose to address those concerns?
So I think, like most things coming out of the General Assembly, there's good intentions, but as the old saying goes, it's exactly the material that the road to hell is paved on. And the problem with the Kirwin Commission is that it's an unfunded mandate to the counties. They basically said, you have to provide this, which great, our kids need it, but we're not going to pay for it. You have to find a way to pay for it. I think you heard from the other panel that there are 2 counties that can't afford to pay for it, and they're being forced between violating that policy of raising taxes, and they chose not to raise taxes. So again, we can fund things. Right now, 68% of the state budget is mandated spending, and we can find ways to cut that and stop putting this on the counties who say, you have to do this, but we're not going to fund it. I think that's where the issue is, and we need to resolve that.
In short, I do have concerns. I believe that Kirwin is an unfunded mandate, and we have to work to figure out how we are going to fund it. We have a significant teacher problem. We've got to figure out how we are going to incentivize and have teachers come to Cecil County. I believe that there are some good attributes to Kirwin. However, raising the funds and how to pay for it, we are going to have to address that before we can implement most of what Kirwin's asking. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Here's when I get concerned in Annapolis. When someone comes to me and says, we can solve this problem and make things better, just give me more money. That sends up my red flags. And that's exactly what Kirwin does. The amount of resources that go to special interest groups in Annapolis are directly proportional to their union presence. And the teachers have a crazy amount of union presence in Annapolis. All the Kirwin bill did is back the Brinks truck up to the teachers union, plain and simple. And it did so at the expense of other public safety servants, whether it be law enforcement, firefighters, or the ancillary staff at the schools, paraprofessionals, custodial staff, people that make the schools run. Those are the folks that lost the most and have seen no increases in pay. Kirwin, there are some good policies in it, but all of those could have been implemented without additional revenue. That's why I voted against it, and that's why I don't like the unfunded mandates that have passed down to the county. Thank you.
Mr. Marion, there have been over 200 mass shootings reported in the United States so far in 2022. Recently, the killing of 19 children in Robb Elementary School in Texas has created even more anxiety and fear. What actions do you believe the General Assembly should take to ensure public safety in Maryland?
Thank you. I believe that we need to work harder on mental health. We need to keep weapons out of people that have mental health conditions. We also need to secure our schools. After the last budget cycle, Cecil County Public Schools had 8 unsecured entrances in our county. I think that's unacceptable. We need to have every single school in the state of Maryland with secured entrances. I also believe that we should have an SRO, or student resource officer, in every single school, not just to protect our kids, but also to protect our teachers. Thank you.
Great question. Over the last 8 years, I've been a member of the Educational Subcommittee on the Ways and Means Committee and led the charge for protecting our students by passing the Maryland Safe Schools Act in 2018. What this act did is it increased the number of SROs, it increased funding for those SROs, it mandated that there's a mental health professional in every school system, and it also looked at entrances and provided funding for those entrances. Unfortunately, the previous administration here at the county didn't take up the full amount of that bill, and we're still working to protect all of our schools fully. But we need to look at our judges and our prosecutors, especially in the central parts of Maryland. They are the ones that need to get tough on crime. We have existing laws. They need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of those, and those criminals need to be locked away, not let go. That's why it's so important that we look, and I try to pass truth in sentencing along with Governor Hogan, as well as informing the citizens of what actually takes place.
If he'd been in jail, Deputy Hilliard would be alive. So let's enforce the laws that are already on the books. Let's get these guys, let's put them in prison, and let's get away from this idea that law-abiding gun owners are responsible for the violence.
A positive working relationship between the State Delegation and the executive and legislative branches of Cecil County Government is critical. Given a general population of 103,000 citizens, Cecil County is not a major influence on happenings in Annapolis. What will you do to ensure we are not at a competitive disadvantage?
So I think this comes with building relationships and educating people that can make things happen. Several years ago, when I was president of the FOP, we're not a big lodge when it comes to comparison to Baltimore City, Baltimore County, PG County. But I can tell you, over the course of 20 years, that Cecil County Lodge 2 has an oversized presence there. And that is because we've built relationships, we've made our case, we use persuasion. And the same thing can happen here in the General Assembly. We have a beautiful county here with beautiful resources. And all it takes is for us to sell it. Say, this is what we have here. This is our way of life. This is our culture. Please respect it. But please, let's work together and help us get things done here.
Thank you. As mayor of the town of Rising Sun, I work in an unaffiliated capacity. I have to work with officials from across the state of Maryland as part of the Maryland Municipal League. Recently, I advocated along with my colleagues, and we successfully passed HB 1187, which increased critical infrastructure funds for local governments just like Rising Sun. I've also made strong bonds with our state leadership, including Governor Hogan and Lieutenant Governor Rutherford, who have been here on multiple occasions. I also held a state roundtable with former Secretary of Commerce, Kelly Schultz, to speak on how COVID has impacted local small businesses in the town of Rising Sun. Building bonds and stronger relationships is something that I will do as your next state delegate. Thank you.
Yeah, first thing I'm going to do is push back on that question. Specifically the line that you stated, not a major influence. I frankly think that's an insult to the elected officials that are here. Okay? Here's what I'm here to tell you. When I got elected, the Cecil County Delegation, before we got in office 8 years ago, was dysfunctional. They couldn't pass local bills. They couldn't get consensus on what we needed to make our county grow. Over the last 8 years, the District 35 and 36 team has delivered real results for this county, okay? We've passed more local bills than we're seeing in the last 20 years in Cecil. We've brought tremendous amount of resources back in the form of taxpayers' dollars returned equity. And we've worked directly with Governor Hogan to get Bainbridge off the ground, to land Great Wolf Lodge. We are now the #1 job creator in Maryland, Cecil County. And it's because of the hard work and the dedication that the District 35 and 36 team have put in over the last 8 years, along with Governor Hogan's help. And that's why we're asking for re-election. Send us back to Annapolis. Thank you.
Mr. Streight, legalization of possession of small amounts and the use of recreational marijuana is a referendum question on the November ballot. Do you favor or oppose this resolution, and explain your answer? Also, what should the General Assembly do to reduce the potential number of users under the influence of cannabis while behind the wheel and on the job?
So like most things that come out of Annapolis, this was not a very well thought out piece of legislation. But if public polls are to be believed, it's going to pass. And I think the next job for the next General Assembly would be to figure out how to regulate it and tax it. You know, maybe we can pay for some of this unfunded mandate with the Blue Ribbon Commission with that, or slice our gas tax with that. We already have, and your sheriff's deputies and troopers and officers already enforce drug driving laws, and there are significant penalties to it. And we can detect them. We have mechanisms for doing that. We do that all the time. So I think we need to continually aggressively enforce them and impress upon the courts that if they're not going to learn their lesson, put them in jail so they don't kill anybody.
Great question. I feel that the state of Maryland has already gone too far in the legalization of marijuana. I voted against the bill, and I'm encouraging you to vote no on the ballot initiative that comes before you on the primary ballot. The reason that we've gone too far with this is purely political. As was alluded to earlier, this was put on the ballot to incentivize higher numbers of Democrats to turn out and vote in the election. In terms of our testing for folks that are under the influence, it's critically important that we get the right tools to our officers to be able to test for folks that are under the influence of marijuana and other drugs. Currently, it's very difficult for an officer to determine if someone is under the influence of marijuana, and they have to base things on what they smell or what they see, and sometimes those convictions don't hold up in court. So if we empower our officers and give them the right testing equipment, we can start catching people that are breaking the law and make our roads and communities safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Along with Delegate Hornberger, I'm asking that folks vote no on this measure. I oppose it. It's something that I don't believe in. The last General Assembly, Democrats in Annapolis tried to weaken penalties for those that have possession of marijuana, especially on the job and behind the wheel. I am not in favor of those either. We have to look at the local burden that it's going to be on our police. I recently rode along with Cecil County Sheriff's deputy who has a canine officer named Max. And Max will be unable to do his job because he was trained to scent marijuana. So that burden will go back on the Cecil County Sheriff's Department to train new dogs. I don't support this, and I am against the legalization of marijuana. Thank you.
That concludes the questions for the candidates for delegate on District 35B. We'll now have 30 seconds to summarize their candidacy. We'll start with Mr. Streight.
And if anybody in this race, I'm the one person to both live and work here in Cecil County, as well as being the one person on this stage that's a law enforcement officer that sees firsthand the effects of drugs, violence, and the downward economy has on Cecil County families. And I'll use that experience in Annapolis to craft legislation to make your life better. I promise to stay in touch with local businesses through the chamber and communicate with issues that could help or hurt businesses in Cecil County. And I promise to legislate with integrity and confidence.
Thank you, Mr. Streight. Mr. Marion.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this debate. Everyone on this stage is pro-Second Amendment, pro-individual rights, and pro-police. We are, or we wouldn't be Republicans. But being a legislator is more than that. It's about understanding school funding. It's about growing our county without losing the rural part of Cecil County that we love. It is about ensuring enough funding to combat issues that face us, not only crime, but infrastructure, housing, tolls. Times are challenging right now, and we need change. I was raised here, and I plan to start my family here. It's my intent to bring the same passion, care, and dedication to District 35. We can make Cecil County better for all that live here.
Thank you, Mr. Marion. Delegate Hornberger.
Thank you. And as you've heard over and over again, the candidates on this stage all feel the same way about the important issues. The reason I'm here tonight is to ask you to vote for experience in these tumultuous times. Annapolis is a rough and tumble place. Experience matters. Knowing the points matters. I want to let you know that tonight I am endorsed by the NRA, the Farm Bureau, and Maryland Right to Life. This wide gamut of endorsements shows that I am the best candidate, and that's why I'm asking again to send me back to Annapolis, and let's keep fighting for Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Hornberger. That concludes the first section of the primary candidates forum. We're going to take a 10-minute intermission.